I never thought I'd have to play a 4K video on our dining room table to save my marriage. But when your mother-in-law spends 2 years turning your husband against you, sometimes technology is the only witness that can't be manipulated. The look on her face when she heard her own voice plotting against me, worth every second of suffering I endured. It started on a Tuesday in April. I remember because the cherry blossoms were falling outside our kitchen window, creating little pink snowdrifts on the lawn. I was making coffee, the morning light streaming in, when my husband Michael's phone buzzed on the counter. A text from his mother, Linda. I didn't mean to read it. I'm not that person. But the preview flashed on his lock screen before it disappeared. "She's trying to control you again. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I knew exactly who she was. Me. I handed Michael his phone when he came downstairs, my hands slightly trembling. He read the message, his face hardening almost imperceptibly. "Mom wants me to stop by tonight," he said flatly. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Just some family stuff." He wouldn't meet my eyes. Family stuff. The perfect shield, because I wasn't really family to Linda. After 5 years of marriage to her only son, I was still the outsider, the intruder, the woman who stole her baby boy. Michael came home late that night, distant and cold. When I asked about his visit, he gave one-word answers. This wasn't like him. We'd always been a team, honest and open. But over the next few weeks, something shifted. Small comments about how I spent money, questions about my friends, suspicion about my late nights at work. I couldn't understand it until one day in May when Michael forgot his phone again. This time, it wasn't locked, and what I saw sent ice through my veins. A text thread with his mother, spanning months. Messages about me, how I was trying to isolate him from his family, how I was probably cheating, how I was spending their future children's college fund on clothes and makeup. All lies, vicious, calculated lies. But the worst part? Messages that looked like they were from me to Linda. Screenshots of texts where I said horrible things about Michael and his family. In one, I, apparently, told Linda that I only married Michael for financial stability. In another, I mocked his career choices and said I was embarrassed to be his wife. I felt sick. These weren't my words. I never sent these messages. I took photos of everything with my own phone before carefully placing his phone exactly where I found it. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped it twice. That night, when Michael came home, Linda was with him. She swept into our house like she owned it, her designer purse swinging from her arm, perfect makeup, and not a hair out of place despite the summer humidity. "Darling," she cooed at me, air kissing near my cheeks. "Michael thought we should all have dinner together. Isn't that nice?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Those eyes watched me like a hawk, gleaming with something that looked disturbingly like triumph. Throughout dinner, she made little comments. How thin Michael looked, how perhaps he wasn't being taken care of properly, how a wife's primary responsibility is to nurture her husband. Michael sat silently, pushing food around his plate. "You know," Linda said, setting down her wineglass with a little too much force. "I've always believed that a mother knows her son better than anyone, even a wife." She stared directly at me when she said it. A challenge. "Is that so?" I kept my voice neutral, though my heart was racing at "Oh yes, the bond between mother and son is sacred, unbreakable." She reached over and squeezed Michael's hand. "Nothing and no one can come between that, not even a wife." There it was, her declaration of war, spoken right across my dining room table. Michael looked uncomfortable, but didn't contradict her. That's when I knew how deep her claws were sunk into him. After they left, I cried for hours, not just from hurt, but from anger. This woman was systematically destroying my marriage with lies, and my husband was believing her over me. The next morning, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront either of them directly, not yet. I needed proof that even Michael couldn't deny. I started with my phone. I contacted my service provider and requested complete records of all text messages sent from my number for the past year. When they arrived, I highlighted every date and time that corresponded to the screenshots Linda had shown Michael. None matched, not a single one. I installed a backup app that saved all my messages automatically to cloud storage. Every text I sent or received was now documented and time-stamped. But I needed more. Linda was careful. She'd only show her true colors when we were alone, so I bought a small security camera for our kitchen, the room where Linda always insisted on helping me prepare meals whenever she visited. I told Michael it was because of a recent break-in down the street. He barely acknowledged it. Then I waited. It didn't take long. The following Sunday, Linda invited herself over for lunch. "I'll help you in the kitchen," she insisted, shooing Michael away to watch football. As soon as he was out of earshot, her demeanor changed. The warm smile vanished, replaced by a cold stare. "You know he's only staying with you out of obligation," she said quietly, chopping carrots with precise, angry strokes. I kept my face neutral. "Is that what he told you?" "He tells me everything." The knife came down, harder. "He always has, long before you came along. I'm sure you two are very close," I said, stirring the pasta sauce. "He's miserable with you." She set down the knife, turning to face me fully. A mother can tell these things. "He's too loyal to leave, but I can see it in his eyes. You're suffocating him." I nodded thoughtfully, as if considering her words. "That must be difficult for you to watch." My calm response seemed to infuriate her. She expected tears, pleading, anger, anything but this collected acceptance. "You think you've won because you have a ring on your finger?" She laughed, a brittle sound. "Marriages end, but I will always be his mother, always." The camera caught everything. Her words, her tone, her body language. The mask completely off. Over the next 3 months, I collected evidence. More kitchen conversations, more fake text messages that Linda created, which my phone records proved I never sent. A conversation where she admitted to a friend on speakerphone that she was working on getting rid of the gold digger, meaning me. Meanwhile, my marriage continued to deteriorate. Michael grew more distant, more critical. We barely talked, barely touched. He started working late, coming home smelling of alcohol and falling asleep on the couch. One night in September, I found him looking at apartment listings online. When I asked if he was planning to move out, he closed the laptop and said, "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." That was when I knew I was running out of time. Linda had been pushing for a big family dinner at our house. All the relatives, Michael's uncles, aunts, cousins, people who had known him since childhood and whose opinions he valued, people who Linda had undoubtedly been poisoning against me for years. "It's been so long since everyone was together," she insisted, "and your house is so much bigger than mine." I agreed enthusiastically. Too enthusiastically, judging by the suspicious look she gave me, but she couldn't resist the opportunity to showcase her influence over our household. The week before the dinner, I prepared meticulously. I organized all my evidence chronologically: text records, video clips, audio recordings. I bought a new HDMI cable to connect my laptop to our dining room TV. The day arrived, October 15th, a Sunday. The house filled with Michael's relatives by 4 p.m. Linda arrived last, making her entrance like a queen greeting her subjects. She brought an expensive bottle of wine and her signature passive-aggressive commentary. "Oh, the table looks nice. Simple, but nice." She rearranged the centerpiece I'd spent an hour creating. "Let me help you, dear. Presentation is so important." I smiled and thanked her, the last fake smile I would ever give her. Dinner progressed, as these family events always did. Linda at the head of the table. A position she claimed despite it being my home. Her holding court, sharing embarrassing stories about Michael's childhood, reminiscing about family events that pointedly predated my arrival in his life. I waited until dessert. The timing had to be perfect. Everyone comfortable, slightly drowsy from food and wine, but not ready to leave. "Before we finish," I said, standing up, "I'd like to share something with all of you." Linda's eyes narrowed. Michael looked confused. "I've noticed some confusion about things I've supposedly said and done," I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Messages I've allegedly sent. Attitudes I supposedly have." So I thought it might be helpful to clear the air with some facts. I connected my laptop to the TV and pulled up the first piece of evidence. The phone records, showing I'd never sent the hateful texts Linda claimed came from me. "These are the complete records from my phone carrier," I explained calmly. "You'll notice there are no texts sent to Linda on any of these dates." The room grew quiet. Michael was staring at the screen, his brow furrowed. "What is this?" Linda interrupted, her voice shrill. "Are you trying to embarrass me in front of everyone?" "I'm just sharing facts, Linda. No different than what you've been sharing about me." Next, I showed screenshots of the fake texts Linda had created, side by side, with my actual message history. The discrepancies were obvious, even from a distance. Creating fake screenshots is actually quite easy, I explained, as if giving a casual tech tutorial. There are apps specifically designed for it. Linda stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is ridiculous! Michael, are you going to let her do this?" Michael didn't respond. He was still staring at the evidence, the colour draining from his face. "But the most interesting part," I continued, clicking to the next file, "is what happens when people think no one is listening." I played the first kitchen video. Linda's voice filled the room. "He's miserable with you. A mother can tell these things." Then another. "I've almost convinced him you're cheating. Men are so easy to manipulate when it comes to that." And another. "Once he leaves you, he'll come back home where he belongs, with his family, his real family." The silence in the room was deafening. Every face turned toward Linda, who had gone pale beneath her perfect makeup. That's taken out of context," she stammered. "She's manipulated those recordings." I played more. Video after video of Linda in our kitchen, plotting, scheming, gloating about how she was systematically destroying my marriage. "You said a mother knows her son better than anyone," I said quietly. "But you forgot that a wife sees what a mother can't, or won't." Michael finally spoke, his voice barely audible. "Mum, is this true?" Linda's composure cracked. "She's trying to turn you against me. This is exactly what I warned you about." "The videos, Mum, the texts, did you fake them?" Linda looked around the table, searching for an ally among the shocked faces of her family members. Finding none, something in her seemed to snap. "She was taking you away from us," she shouted, pointing at me. "She never appreciated our family traditions, never respected my place in your life. Someone had to do something." The admission hung in the air. No one moved. Michael stood up slowly. "You lied to me. For months. Years, maybe." "I protected you," Linda insisted, reaching for his arm. He pulled away. "You need to leave," he said quietly. "Michael, now Mom, please." What followed was what I can only describe as a meltdown. Linda cycling through tears, rage, accusations, and finally, threats. She would disown him. She would tell everyone what a terrible son he was. She would write him out of her will. Michael's uncle eventually escorted her out, her protests audible even after the front door closed. The rest of the family left shortly after, murmuring awkward apologies and goodbyes. And then it was just Michael and me, standing in our dining room, amid the wreckage of dessert plates and family ties. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked finally, his voice hollow. "Would you have believed me over her?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. The weeks that followed were difficult. Michael moved into the guest room. We started marriage counselling. He called his mother only once, to tell her she wouldn't be welcome in our home until she sought help and made amends. She responded by sending a group email to the entire family detailing my supposed faults and sins. It backfired. The family had seen the evidence. Her credibility was shattered. Slowly, painfully, Michael and I began rebuilding. Trust doesn't return overnight when it's been so thoroughly damaged. There were nights I questioned whether our marriage could survive, not just Linda's betrayal, but Michael's willingness to believe the worst about me. But we kept working, talking, being honest even when it hurt. 6 months after the family dinner, we took a weekend trip to the coast, just the two of us. Sitting on the beach at sunset, Michael handed me a small box. Inside was a new wedding ring, different from my original. "I thought we could start fresh," he said. "Make new promises, better ones." I looked at the ring, simple and beautiful. Not a replacement for what was lost, but a symbol of what could be built anew. "I should have trusted you," he said. "I should have seen what she was doing. She's your mother. You loved her. Love makes us vulnerable, but it should also make us stronger." He took my hand. "I want to be stronger with you. No more trying to keep the peace at the expense of the truth. No more letting anyone come between us. I slipped the new ring on my finger. It felt right. A weight lifted. Linda still tries occasionally. Holiday cards with manipulative messages. Tearful phone calls about her health. Flying monkeys in the form of distant relatives who don't know the full story. But the difference now is that we face it together, with clear boundaries and no illusions. Sometimes I think about that family dinner, about the risk I took. It could have gone differently. Michael might have chosen his mother's version of reality over mine, but living in the shadow of those lies was slowly killing me, killing us. Truth was the only way forward, however painful. Last week, I was cleaning out our spare room when I found the old security camera I'd installed in the kitchen. Such a small device to have captured so much deception. I considered throwing it away. We don't need it anymore. But instead, I put it on a shelf in our home office. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful weapon against manipulation isn't confrontation or anger, but simply letting the truth speak for itself. The new ring catches the light as I type this. Different from the one Linda helped Michael choose before we married. This one is ours alone. A circle of truth rather than obligation. Michael and I aren't perfect. We still struggle sometimes with the after effects of his mother's campaign against me. Trust, once broken, heals in jagged lines rather than smooth ones. But we're building something real now. Something based on honesty instead of harmony, at any cost. And that's worth more than all the peaceful family dinners in the world.